And here's the thing. Temperatures soar, the UK basks in glorious sunshine, the kids are on holiday, and you are considering that much-needed family break. There could be no greater set of symbols that this really is midsummer, unless you're Dawn Butler, where it's midwinter, in fact Christmas to be precise. Yes, the festive season has come early for the MP for Brent after she and a friend were stopped in their car at the weekend. Police pulled them over on a routine stop yesterday afternoon in East London. Miss Butler was the passenger. It took no time at all for diligent George to whip out her phone and begin filming the incident. She looked like somebody who just hit the jackpot. And she had a smile. Did you notice this? There was a smile that began to emerge, that expanded from ear to ear incredibly quickly. The look of utter joy as she began to act out her big moment. She could hardly contain herself as she aimed her camera at the boys and girls in blue and began to execute her faux indignation. Dawn Butler was born for this very moment. All her dreams came true. Christmas really had arrived for Dawn Butler. Here's a taster of the moment the Labour MP confronted the police.
If you're just profiling people who are driving outside their area, I think that's a ridiculous reason to stop. If you're profiling people who are driving a certain type of car, that's an inappropriate reason to stop. And if you're profiling people because of the colour of their skin, that's an inappropriate reason to stop people. Now the thing is this, I've already explained, I've had no reason, I've got no concern with how the officer stopped me. It's very polite. What I'm questioning is the reason for the stop, and that worries me.
Yeah. Who speaks to the police like that, by the way? Who dictates and lays out the rules of engagement in that kind of way? 0344 499 1000. How can Dawn Butler possibly know she was racially profiled, even by her own rather daft reckoning? She mentions it could be the colour of my skin. But then she goes on to talk about, is it because my car suddenly pinged up as being from outside the area, which transpired to be a mistake? Could there be something else? So she's aware that there could be other reasons, but she's now focused on racial profile. How could Dawn Butler possibly know she was racially profiled? I am intrigued by this, but I'm more disturbed by this, that the sort of racism industry has been boiling away, stewing away for the last few months in a kind of a manner that we haven't seen for a long time. And I sensed, and I watched the video and I watched it again and again and again. Lots of people were confused, by the way. If you notice, the video was flipped, like when you show a photograph backwards. So to begin with, what I couldn't work out is that they kept talking about Dawn Butler being a passenger. I kept thinking, why is she in the driving seat? Is it a left-hand driven car, a left-hand drive? But it turns out that some diligent people online realise that if you look at the writing behind, it's all backwards. So someone had flipped the video. It might have been one of the news channels who did it. I don't know if there's a reason behind that. Don't read too much into it. But nonetheless, it turns out, just to clarify, she was a passenger in the car. And she talked... This is what's fascinating about this whole thing. She talked afterwards about how she said, I should have been enjoying a Sunday afternoon, but I have to relive the trauma. Oh, get over yourself, mate. The trauma of having a chinwag with the cops. The trauma on social media. I'm not making this up. On social media, fellow race baiter David Lammy, this is true, what I'm about to tell you, offered to pray for Dawn. He actually offered to pray. She's not dead, Dave. He offered to pray for her. She just got pulled over by the police. Turns out the cops were really polite. Nothing to see here. On your way. Happens all the time. I've lost count of how many times that has happened to me. She went on to talk about how the police were systemically racist. This is nonsense, by the way. It's just another kind of cul-de-sac phrase designed to close off debate and attract terrified bedwetters to join that same level of synthetic outrage in case people judge them as being a mad old racist. And that's the place we're at. This is Dawn Butler we're talking about. I had many questions about Dawn Butler. I mean, she recently said in Parliament, this just gives you a kind of an example of the cut of her jib on these matters, who asked a question to the government recently. And she said, when will this government take its knee off the necks of BAME people? she was sick enough to utilise the death of a man 4,000 miles away to hammer home a race-baiting point. And she's, by the way, and she's got, all sorts of form. This is the woman that said, we didn't lose the election, we just didn't win it. You getting an idea of where I'm going here? This was also the woman who claimed that her constituency had 3,000 homeless people in it. Sleeping rough, 3,000, she said. Turned out there was 248. So I'm just giving you an idea of the kind of backdrop to the politician here. And that, I hope, will just inform us a little bit about what we're dealing with. But primarily, overarching all of this is the fact that she's a left-wing MP and she's angry. And when you're angry, you need an enemy. And if you haven't got an enemy, you simply make one up. It's as old as you like. It's the Professor Minogue example of George slaying the dragon. You carry on looking for other dragons to slay. It's no good saying there's a victory here. You have to keep it up. You have to have that level of enemy. And right now, it's a perfect time that the temperature is absolutely ripe to have this argument in the eyes of people like Dawn Butler. She could have no evidence that she was racially profiled. I mean, if you look at the cop talking to her on the video, and check out the video online if you haven't seen it, it's palpable and obvious, demonstrably obvious, that there is a very reasonable police officer, couldn't get a word in, frankly, trying to explain what's happened. Everything's fine, nothing to see here, away you go. 0344 499 1000. I want to take your calls on this, and the fundamental question, let's not lose sight, because I think accusations of racism where there is none should be taken as seriously as accusations of racism when there is something to see. This is in the way that if you libelled somebody or slandered somebody, that would be unpalatable and wrong. And this kind of stuff that's just wheeled out very casually by Dawn Butler, check the look out on her face when she realised, man alive, this is the George Floyd legacy. Here it is. I can write this one out good and proper on my camera phone. 0344 499 1000. Simple question. How can Dawn Butler possibly know she was racially profiled?